Well, the season has come to a conclusion, and we have a team that has finished with basically perfection, man. Indiana Hoosiers 16-0. I think they ran a stat during the game that said somehow or another there was another team that was 16-0 back in like 1890 something. But this is the first team that we've seen go through the 12-team playoff, regular season, conference championship, all that good stuff to reach a 16-0 record and win the national championship, man. What an incredible season that the Indiana Hoosiers had this season, man. It's really wild to say that we've actually been able to witness this because without it sounding too cliche and without it sounding like we're just, I don't know, riding a hot wave or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I truly feel like, and it's really undeniable, what we have witnessed is truly an historic event, an historic season, something that I would have never dreamed would have happened. I don't know that anyone that does any type of sports coverage or broadcasting or anything might had Indiana going 16-0 and winning a national championship this season, man. It's unreal to think about how it went down.
Yeah, man. I mean, just a legendary season, dude. I mean, just
Yeah,
legendary moments, and I think maybe in the history of things, wouldn't that we would put Indiana as the the best team we've ever seen or anything,
no,
and talent wise and all that. And no hate on them, but it's what they've done with what they've had and how they were a few years ago. The most
yeah,
shocking season, and you have to give them credit pulling off the 16-0, man. I mean, I know that wasn't an option for some teams in the past where it was a 14 playoff or when it was before
right,
the playoffs, but in this time and era, man, going 16-0 is so impressive and so difficult to do. So I don't want to take away at all from Indiana there. I didn't mean it as disrespect to them. I think
yeah,
they have had one of the most legendary seasons we've seen. And just some of the moments, man, between their players and I mean Mendoza and then Signetti, the coach, dude. I mean, um, it's just crazy, man, what they've been able to do, man.
yeah,
This is an Indiana team that had like 4 wins 2 years ago. I think 2 or 3 wins before that. Um, this is an
yeah,
Indiana team that wasn't even at 500 over their history, man, on wins losses. They are not known for football, and then last year, finished 11-2 on the season, and
hmm,
just ramped. And for them, I felt like I'd say last year for Indiana football that was a big shock. Well, this year they just ramped it right up, man, and so deserving of it in my opinion too of the
yeah,
championship, man. I mean, um, as we was watching this, I think I texted you and I said, I know it probably seems like I hate Miami right now trying to text you about this game, but it's not the case at all. I mean, Miami had kudos to them too. I mean, 10th seed, man, not barely made the playoffs. They were on that outside looking in kind of
yeah,
there towards the end, and they got in and played great. Their defense is nasty. Go ahead and apologize. I'm going to just go ahead and apologize for underestimating their defense. I think I think my prediction was like 35 to uh,
yeah,
20. We got Miami's score pretty close. I mean, you got them at 24, but man, their defense is so nasty. So don't want to take away from Miami, but it was like when I was pulling for Indiana in this game, and I just felt it's such a deserving win for this team and how they've done. And I just wanted that historic season so bad. I think at that point, so
yeah,
I was finding myself cheering like I was a diehard Indiana Hoosier fan, man. I mean, I started feeling that way to me. So that's why I texted you. I was like, man, I know it
yeah,
seems like I hate Indiana or Miami right now, but it's just because I'm in that competitive mode at this point as a fan, man, where you're just like, before this, I was pulling for Miami in a lot of other games, but especially
100%.
against like Ohio State and stuff. But man, Indiana just so impressive and
Yeah,
what a win, man. They just find ways to win. Great teams, championship teams find ways to win. Even when
yep,
moments in that second half started to look like Miami might be the one to pull off the
yep.
upset there.
Yeah, I agree with it, man. I mean, I'll go ahead and address my elephant in the comment section, so to speak, as opposed to the
Yeah.
elephant in the room. I did kind of over exaggerate the score maybe a little bit and stuff like that. But I mean, if you think back to what Indiana did to Bama and what Indiana did to Oregon. I mean, maybe those two defenses didn't stack up against this defense that Miami had this year, but I didn't think it. I'll stand on that hill. I never thought that what I was saying in that moment was far fetched. I mean, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I truly thought that Indiana had the capabilities based on what they've done throughout the season to put up those kind of numbers on the scoreboard against Miami. But we've also said at moments in time where, during this podcast and throughout the entire college football season that we've had this year, we've also said at times that Miami looked like the best team in the country.
Yeah.
Miami's defense was swarming, fast, played physical. I mean, so however you want to spin it, I'm not trying to say that what I said, I'm taking that back or anything like that. Standing
Yeah.
on it. But what a game, man! And Mike, to be honest with you, man, aside from what happened on the field and aside from just it being the college football national championship, I mean that in itself is big enough, and we always look
Yeah.
forward to that. But something that I couldn't help think throughout the entire game was how refreshing it was to watch those two teams make it to the national
Yeah.
championship. Because
Yeah.
I mean, just watching two teams that haven't been there in a long time. I mean, obviously Indiana's never been there, and Miami, obviously they have a historic program, rich tradition. They've won, I think, 5 national championships in their school's history. But
Yeah.
it's been since 2001 since they won a national championship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So no hate here at all for Miami. I think it's really awesome that they made it. And I think someone, I can't remember if it was Herb Street or who, maybe Fowler said it, but they said the players that are on the field today weren't even alive when Miami won their
Yeah.
last national championship. So that's crazy to think that you've seen an entire generation go without witnessing that. And as long as Miami continues to build on what they're doing, obviously they'll find themselves back in these situations. But kind of piggybacking off what you said about Indiana, man, what a team, so resilient. That's a word that you've used when you've explained them or talked about them a lot in podcasts and on the text that we send back and forth to each other when we watch these games.
Yeah.
Um, there was moments in time, man, where it really looked like Miami was going to start to slowly take control of the game. I mean, Miami goes scoreless the entire first half. That's a testament, obviously, to Indiana's
Yeah.
defense, which I don't think we've really shined enough light on them. But what a game, man! What a game!
Yeah. And I was, it's funny you mentioned that because that's somewhere I was wanting to go with this. I think something I want to start with the score, being scoreless in the first half, and Miami was having really struggling, man, offensively. Um,
Oh yeah,
and I think when I was making my prediction and kind of like the higher points that we kind of had in that, um, I think part of that's not just that we were just so much disrespecting Miami's defense. I knew their defense was great,
uh-huh.
um, but I thought it was going to be an issue of Miami's offense having a lot of trouble like they did in that first half. But
Yep,
Indiana's been really good about creating some turnovers, or the special teams that the block punt for the touchdown. Things
yep,
like that I thought would start to happen, and maybe Miami's offense wouldn't be able to recuperate like they did in that second half. That's where they shot
yep,
me, is Miami's offense really stepped up in that second half to be able to, you know,
yep,
to push through there. I thought maybe that would be a wear down on the defense later on. Does that make sense? Like with
yep,
Indiana getting maybe some short field position because that they the last game with Oregon they were in Oregon's territory so much. That's one of the reasons they put up so many points against them.
yep,
And I thought it would be a little bit of something like that to where, all right, eventually your defense is going to break some, and which honestly both kind of did in that second half. I mean,
yep,
Miami's defense was getting, kind of pushed around a little bit too in that second half. Now the defensive front was solid whole game. I mean, Mendoza's a tough dude. We'll get into that, but he very tough dude. But I noticed like finally their corners and stuff were starting to get a couple of those back shoulder throws and stuff like that. They were starting to get burned on a little bit, and then some of that running game was getting rolling.
yep. Oh
Obviously,
yeah,
flip side Miami was doing the same. But you mentioned Indiana's defense. Because I'd seen even in the comments when we talked about, someone was like, the highest the team scored on Miami this year is 27. Um, I think it was 27, 28. Um, and which Indiana, did match that. But on the flip side, the highest amount of points that's been scored on Indiana this year was 24.
Right.
So we hadn't talked. We even in this game we're talking about Miami's defense leading into this. So Indiana
Yeah.
also has a great defense, and
Oh yeah.
so that really showcased, especially in that first half. But then also into the game, man, defensive for Indiana comes up with the stop when it looked like Miami was gonna have that chance to really roll down the field, and some and I seen uncharacteristic stuff. From Indiana some this game. I thought when they were going to go down and it didn't even look like Carson Beck Miami was going to get another chance at that. Within 2 minutes there and was down deep in their territory. It was 2nd and 1. And, one of their best linemen, man, rare mistake, had a false start. And
Yep.
Indiana had to end up settling for a field goal on that, which gave Miami a chance. I mean, if they'd got that first down, dude, that they would have ran the clock out of that game, and there just
Yep.
would have been no more time. And they would have got that 1 yard. So that's something uncharacteristic of them. The personal foul that I seen on defense or when on Carson Beck, there was a late hit there, and they were, I think it was like 2nd and 15 when that happened. So that on that last drive, another bad penalty that Indiana typically doesn't do.
Yep.
And so you kind of started to think, man, maybe this is just destined now for Miami with those things kind of leading up to this. Go down Carson Beck, in his last game in college football with all he went through from Georgia. It was like the stars were starting to align for Miami. But
Yep.
again, that resilience, man, and the defense coming up with the pick. And the only thing I can figure on Beck, that's like for the guy that's going to be his last college football play. And I know that was a heartbreaker for him. Um, like you said, you texted me, he threw into double coverage. And the only thing I could think, man, is the cornerback, the receiver had got past him. So he had him beat on that, but you had the safety coming over top for help. And the cornerback, I think, knew that he had that safety over top and
Yep.
he kind of played for the ball on that, man. And once that ball like floated in the air, it was. So I don't know
Yeah.
if Beck didn't see one of the, either the safety coming over top or, he might have just seen that cornerback a step or so behind his receiver. And
Yep.
Regardless, man, that's a tough throw to make right there because you
Oh
didn't
yeah.
need the touchdown right then. You still had a little bit of time.
Yep.
I know that he's probably thought about that one a lot.
Oh yeah,
But
man.
resilience, man, on Indiana, even when it was starting to look like that, they still show up, they still make the play, and they still win the game, man. At the
Yep.
end of the day, people can say, well, if it wasn't for the block punt, if it wasn't for, I think I've seen something about that. Had it not been the block punt, it'd been 21-20. That's
Yep.
very true. There's a lot of things had it not happened, it wouldn't happen. And at the end of the day,
Yep.
Indiana football wins.
Yep.
You can
Well,
Google
I
it.
mean, yeah. I mean, you could say the same for that big long run that Miami got to finally get on the board for the touchdown. If that doesn't happen, what's the
Yeah.
scoreboard look like? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and they hadn't moved the ball at all. That was just, I mean, he just happened
Right.
to break free on a play,
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep. So and that kid Fletcher or whatever, he's so fast. Both those running backs for Miami are
oh
so
yeah.
good.
Hmm.
Malachi Tony, that's his first name, right? Malachi. Um, Tony, he's technically listed as a wide receiver, but he gets a lot of touches and a lot of carries and a lot of kind of
Oh
behind the
yeah.
line of scrimmage passes that look more like a run play than a, you know what I'm saying? So,
Oh yeah.
but those, the true freshman that I'm talking about, Tony,
Yeah. Oh, he's
um,
super dangerous,
he,
man, on the ball.
he's a freak athlete. I cannot wait to see what he does with the rest of his college football career. But
Isn't he like
anyway,
17 or something, or just turned 18? Should be like a senior
yeah, he is a
in high
true
school.
freshman. Like he's not a red
Yeah.
shirt. He's
Yeah.
a lot of guys red shirt and stuff like that. This kid hit the ground running as a true freshman. You don't really see a lot of that anymore, Mike,
Mm-mm.
in college football. But
No. I'd like to see that for
yes,
Tennessee someday.
yeah, wouldn't you
So
though? Um,
there'll be more
but
time to
going
talk
back,
about that later.
oh yeah, oh yeah. But going back to that pass that you were talking about from Carson Beck, man, it's for him to throw interceptions and stuff is not uncharacteristic. I mean, historically he has struggled with turning the ball over and things like that. Seems like in these playoffs he kind of cleaned it up a bit and played really good, especially the last two games,
Yeah.
in the playoffs. But that right there was just like you said, not really sure what he saw.
Mhm.
Only he knows that. But that ball was never getting to that wide
Yeah.
receiver. I mean, it never had enough air on it. Well,
Yeah.
it probably stayed in the air too long, but it wasn't enough
Yeah.
trajectory and distance on that ball. Just a
Because if
terrible
you were
throw.
going,
Terrible throw.
yeah, if you were going for that, like, like I said, the receiver had the cornerback a step ahead, and you're throwing on that sideline more. I feel like
Yeah.
at that point, you got that safety coming over, so you want to catch that sideline,
Yeah.
um, and
You're
it just
really
wasn't
aiming
wasn't
towards
there.
that back. Even though it wasn't an end zone shot, that type of throw needs
Yeah,
to be aimed towards that back pylon in that corner of that end
yeah,
zone.
yeah.
Even though that's not where it's going, but that's kind of like the trajectory that you want the ball
Hmm.
aiming towards. And
Yeah,
I'm not sitting here trying to act like I'm a quarterback, but
no.
but
But just
um,
watching it, like you want to keep that away from the safety coming over. You want it where
right.
only your receiver can catch it on the
Yep.
sidelines, and he already got
Yep.
the cornerback beat technically as far as
Yep.
a step ahead of him. But um, again, I think the cornerback was playing that based
Yep.
on the safety coming over too. I don't think he just flat out got
Yep.
beat. I think that was a good defensive play. Um, it's funny though, man. Like I was meant to ask you about this with me. How wild is it that I text you and I said, man, I'd love for him to throw a pick here, and then sure enough, man,
That's true.
yeah,
I mean, by the time I looked down at my phone to see that you had texted me, he had thrown
yeah,
the interception. That's how quick it was. So yeah, you
it's wild.
freaking eight ball over there, man. Mind reader,
And I
psychic.
I was literally like, as soon as I texted and I like put my phone down and I was like, oh, there we
You
go.
might be you might be like a symbolic curse to Miami football, man.
I could be after that. Hey, when they lost, that championship against Ohio State, man, I was that's what started my hate, I think, for Ohio State. But I was pulling
Yeah,
for Miami, and I think I started. They started celebrating, and I started, too with that. And it was that last play of the game, and they called pass
yeah,
interference. It should not have been. The game was
yeah,
over. But
yeah.
started right there. I guess I'm continuing to curse Miami, but
Yeah. But speaking of plays, Mike, that kind of changed the course of the game, and obviously that ended the game. That was like the nail in the
yeah,
coffin ball game.
mhm,
Whatever. Uh, let's kind of shift gears real quick and take a look back at Indiana. There are very, very huge, critical, big time moments, big time
yeah,
plays, big time coaching decisions. I think you saw Kurt Signetti and his coaching staff, for lack of a better word, get very, very ballsy with some of the stuff that they did there in the fourth quarter, or
oh
in the
yeah,
second half, really in general. To hear him talk about it in the press conference, he just said that he knew that it was time for a momentum shift in the game, and
yeah,
there were certain things on defense that they saw them do, and he strategically used the timeout to change something within their formation to combat their formation. I mean, we're talking about stuff that's beyond me. I'm not a coach, but to hear him talk about it is
yeah,
really, 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 really incredible. Yeah, let's just go over some of those plays, man. Some of the
yeah.
crazy Heisman level moment plays that showcases why Mendoza has that trophy.
Yeah, man. I mean, we couldn't discuss this championship game without talking about this, man.
Of
Because
course,
these
man.
are some crazy moments. For starters, the fourth down play. At that point in the game, um,
Mm,
was it a 3-point game? I think it was a 3-point game at that point. Um, and
something like that, yeah.
and you can tell, they went for it on fourth down twice that drive. So you had the first fourth down. That was in that weird spot of the field. Like, do you punt it and put it deep, or
Right.
do you go for it here? And man, just that back shoulder throw, Mendoza moment right there, right on the money. Um, and kudos, also the receiver, man. He Gosh, Charlie Becker, man. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a guy that hadn't
Incredible.
that sat and waited his time, and someone have to get hurt this season. Towards the end, he just sprouted up out of nowhere, man. Big moments. He had two great throw or catches, but this one I'm talking about in particular, just a spot on throw by Mendoza, and then I mean, just and the receiver, great catch, just executed perfect, man. Um,
Yeah.
and really quarterback was kind of all over him and just with that back shoulder gets him off, man, just enough. And that extended the drive. Well, then you get down there 4th and 5, man, and it's like they were going to kick a field goal, call the timeout, like you said, with the formation stuff, changing up the formation, getting an idea of everything, and just really
Yeah.
thinking about it. And that, he said it took some time to think about it. And man, he just what a coach to make that play. What this is a win a championship. You're up
Yeah.
by 3. 3 points is only going to put you up by 6 to a Miami team that has started moving the ball at this point, and I
Yep.
would say momentum had shifted at this point. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
why they went for the 4th down that drive. At this point, you committed yourself to scoring a touchdown on this drive, in my opinion.
Yep. Yep.
And then, dude, the play there probably I mean, it has to be the most legendary play in Indiana football for sure.
Yep.
Um, and man, just a, a straight up Heisman moment, man. I mean,
Yep.
the toughness to score. You know, that run, I mean, everybody knows about it. That run to not only just get the first down, but keep his balance and then diving in the end zone, taking another brutal hit on that
Oh
play.
yeah.
And man, just laying it all on the line right there. That's what that was to me. That was a quarterback, a coach that trusted his quarterback, and a quarterback that just laid it all on the line right there to win a championship, man. And
Yep.
ultimately, man, I know that some other things had to happen. They had a field goal, and they had to stop Miami, but ultimately, that drive was the championship moment to me.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
that legendary moment. This game ended up being one of those instant classics, but that was that legendary. If you're playing NCAA at home and you got your player and your career going on, that was your moment to, just make you a legend on campus. That's
Oh yeah,
what that
man.
was to me, man. It was crazy, man. I
Yep.
was I couldn't believe it. I was so pumped for them because at that point they don't get that Miami has all momentum, I felt like. So
Yep. Yeah. To me, man, that drive alone
yeah,
was a master class in
yeah,
grit, determination, execution, coaching, you
yeah,
name it. It was a master class in all of those different categories. I mean, uh, no one ever really gives lineman credit, but on that Mendoza run to get into the end zone, the lineman did their job and got him past that first line of defense.
yeah,
Uh, and he trusted his blockers. You can kind of see him wait and find the gap, almost like a running back, really. But um, and after that, dude, it was all Mendoza. It was all heart,
yeah,
grit, determination. I want this more than you do. He's
yeah,
bouncing off dudes like a pinball, spinning around, and like you
yeah,
said, the dive into the end zone. Uh, you know, the focus that it takes to dive like that and maintain possession of the football without it getting hit or knocked out.
yeah.
Just
Just
the awareness, I guess you could say. I'll keep going. By the way, it's
yeah,
just
you're
really
good.
that awareness to know where you are
Sorry,
in
go.
that moment and how close you are to the goal line to just jump from where he jumped.
Yeah,
And like I said, maintain possession of the ball. That drive alone, like I said, I think, and you mentioned it actually, that'll go down as one of the best drives in like championship games. Maybe not the best or whatever. I know there's classic moments, but that falls into that category of just all
oh
time
yeah,
classic moments in a college football championship game. Man,
yeah.
um,
It's up
can't
there,
can't
man.
speak highly enough of this team, dude. And looking at some of the stats that they put together in this game, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't beautiful all throughout the whole thing. I mean, it was a battle.
Yeah,
The game ended up being an absolute battle. I wasn't so sure after that first half that we were going to see a game come down to the wire.
hmm,
And I get it. It was only 10-0. It was by no means or by no stretch of the imagination a blowout, but
right.
it looked like it was going to be one of those games where you might see like 17-3, 17-10, seventeen
Yeah.
seven, something like that. Both
Because
teams kind
Miami,
of amped
Miami
it
just
up.
couldn't score in that first half. That's what made it feel. I think made you feel that
Right.
way. It's just like, you know what I mean. It's just even though it was a 10-0 game, it felt more out of reach than that. in a way.
Yeah, it did, and then everything turned and changed in that second half. Indiana won the coin toss at the beginning of the game, elected to receive the ball after halftime. Elected
Yeah,
to kick the ball to start the game. They didn't take advantage of that opportunity after halftime. They got the ball, and however that drive transpired, they ended up punting the ball. Miami gets the ball back. And
yeah,
that's when Miami breaks the long run, and then here we are.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
looking at a 10-7 game, one possession game. So that's when I was like, okay, here we go. We got a ball game on our hands.
You
But
got
but
you got to give
giving,
it. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, just giving credit to both teams, man. I mean,
Yeah,
total yards were close. Miami actually edged out Indiana in total yards, yards per play, passing yards. Um, you know, it's really penalty. I mean, just looking at the stat sheet just quickly without studying it, you're looking at penalties, turnovers, third down conversions. Those are the
yeah,
things that really got Miami in this one.
yeah. And I mean, we're playing off that. That's something we talked about. Indiana, man, discipline.
Yep.
They're not gonna. They don't give many turnovers. They're not gonna. You're gonna have to beat them. They're not just gonna give you the game. And
Right.
that's another
Right.
example, man. Just right there. Just Miami has struggled with the penalties, and that's early on that first half. That was what I noticed was like just a lot less disciplined of a team. Is what we were seeing, and that kind of just played true to how the season ended there, kind of for them. But I will say, man, Miami had several opportunities to lay down, and they definitely didn't do that in this game. When you talk about their defense coming out and making a statement in the first drive of the second half, because
Yep.
Indiana, I think if Indiana goes down and scores a touchdown right there and makes that game 17-0 in the second half, I think
Yep.
you would have looked at that would never been a close game. And because I said I think we were texting about that, and we were talking about this next drive is going to determine a lot of how this game's going to turn out looking like. Because even though it was just 10-0 in that first half, it didn't. It felt bigger than that. And if Indiana getting the ball, had they come out and scored a touchdown, man, I truly believe had that game been 17-0 after that, our score predictions might have been a little closer than
Yep.
what it ended up being because I think that would have caused Miami to maybe lay down a little bit more right there, but they
Yep.
didn't. They fought and stayed in there. Another moment where Miami could have laid down is when the block punt for a touchdown to put Indiana back up 10. Miami had got to stop. Indiana pinned them deep. At that point, it's a 3-point game, and then it's right back to being 17-7. That could have been another moment where Miami kind of let Indiana go away with it, but they responded by scoring with a great
Yep.
drive their next drive. So, um, there were a couple moments. So, but both of them definitely resilient teams. In the end, like you said, I think it comes down to the discipline with the penalties that Miami had, and then the turnovers, and that
Yep.
you tend when you lose those a lot of times we've talked about that this year. It seems to the game usually don't go in your favor when that happens, and in Indiana, like I said, they had some penalties that I didn't expect either.
Right.
Um, Miami, with some of their penalties, I will say they did have some big moments that extend drives on or extend a drive on one of it. In the first half there, I think when Miami scored or Indiana scored their first touchdown. But the refs were definitely letting them play. I
Yeah.
will say that because man,
I,
in my opinion, there were several times. If you go back and look, you could see jerseys being pulled, like you could see the actual jersey getting extended some, and it didn't
yep.
get a call. So, one
Yep.
thing Miami fans I will say in this game, and I don't think most of them are. I haven't seen a lot of this, so most of them have been pretty good about it. It was a great game. They understand too. Indiana's a
Yep.
crazy tough team, and I feel like a
Yep.
lot of Miami fans are mostly proud of how Miami played, and they're still
Of
proud of their
course.
team. You do
Of
have the
course.
people that like to always, shout refs and stuff. If anything, Miami got away with a lot.
Yep. Yep.
Some potential cheap hits
Especially.
that you could say on Mendoza. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a few things, man, that like, they were definitely letting them play, but there were moments that some flags should have been thrown in Miami's way too. So you can't, nobody can deny that there was any refs like pulling one way or the other. They're just
It's true.
letting them go. So
And that's what I like to see, man. I like to see
yeah,
the refs let them play a little bit.
yeah,
Some of those hits on the quarterback, it's odd to see some of those flags not come in because
yeah,
typically refs across all levels of football are
yeah,
typically pretty protecting of those quarterbacks.
yeah.
But yeah, man, I agree with you, man.
Mhm.
There was definitely a lot of things that could have been called, which obviously could have made Miami's situation way worse
Yeah.
than it was.
Agree, man. And I'm like you. I do like to see them play it. Now, if
Yeah.
there's a couple like now when you start getting to some dirty hits, some things, I like to see a flag thrown on that. Um, and
I
then the
also
only
love seeing
thing,
dirty hits sometimes, though.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm
Just
not,
a big
no, hey,
monstrous hit.
yeah, oh no, no, definitely not the, like, more so like I get completely what you're saying. I do too. I mean more so like launching with your head to the
Yeah,
quarterback's
yeah,
helmet.
Un-
That
yeah,
that
under the face
unnecessary.
mask.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unnecessary stuff. That I'd like to see probably a flag get thrown on. But other than that, yeah, I do like smash mouth football. Don't get me wrong, because there was a play I thought they were going to call potentially on a Indiana player but he pulled to the side when he hit the tight end, so it
gotcha.
wasn't
Yeah,
like he kind of held back really. Now that
yeah,
sometimes I like to see big hits, but
yeah,
the only time when they're hand fighting and stuff, I like to see them let that go. When
yeah.
both players are kind of hand fighting. Now, the only time I really there was a couple. One I did have an issue. I think he got a call, and I could see he grabbed the back of the jersey, and you see the
Hmm.
jersey kind of extend, and it actually he held on, and it slowed the player down, and
Right.
then that's
Yeah,
like one of those plays where he was like trying to locate the ball, and he kind of lost it, but it was
yeah,
now that kind of pass interference, you've got to call that, in my opinion. If they're grabbing
yeah,
a jersey and slowing players down, and you see that jersey extension, there's
yeah.
no longer any hand fighting going on between players. That's just straight up.
Right.
I mean, really, it's textbook defensive pass interference. So,
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
there's definitely some things they got away with, man, for sure. Um, but it was interesting to see Miami's cornerbacks at first. It seemed like we're on it, man. But there in that second half, there was a few plays of that. Like Charlie Becker, man, he was kind of and eating him up there in that fourth quarter there. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, overall, dude, what a game, man. Like I said to start this whole thing out, one of the main things I kept saying was just how refreshing it was to see two teams that we haven't seen
mhm,
in a national championship. No one, I don't think, really predicted. I know almost. I would say for a fact that no one predicted these two teams to meet up with each other for the national championship. Now, I do know during Miami's hot streak and all that, there were people, and I do recall hearing people say
oh
that
yeah,
Miami was going to go all the way and win it all and all that. But like I said, man, just refreshing to see two teams that we haven't seen play each other in a national championship. Two teams that don't make it.
mhm,
Two teams that Miami fell off hard after their last championship game. They haven't really been relevant in
yeah,
a long time. So to see their resurgence is really cool. To see what Signetti's doing with Indiana is really cool.
yeah,
I looked up something earlier, Mike, before we started the pod, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. And maybe we can bounce back and forth on this to see what our perspectives are on it. But I had a thought pop in my head, and we can end it with this if you want, unless you have other stuff you want to talk about. But I had a thought pop in my head um, after teams have a really good season and after teams make it to the national championship and win the national championship and stuff like that, historically, um, and this can be for really any sport if you
mhm,
want to take it that far, but historically, when teams have that much success, what do teams typically look like the following season? And when you look stuff like that up on the internet, man, you get a wide range of different answers. And in today's landscape of things, the way college football is with the portal and all that,
mhm,
it's almost impossible to predict what a team's going to look like the following season after
yeah,
having so much success. But some of the stuff that I found, Mike, and then we can ramble on about it for a little bit. Most recent college football national title teams tend to stay good the next year, but only a small number actually repeat or even get back to the national championship. teams almost always have a winning record after a title, and many still finish in the top 10, but often they slip a tier.
Right.
And they go from being an elite team to merely just a pretty good or a good team.
Yeah.
Um, and this is just a combination of losing players to the NFL draft, coaching staffs getting picked by whether it's the NFL or coordinators get head coaching jobs and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to look at it from the perspective of where we are in college football now. How does a team find success year in and year out in this landscape? Because, you know, we've seen in this portal era a team go, take Florida State for instance. They had that really good season where they went, what did they go undefeated, or they lost one game or something in the regular season? And then the very next season, absolute detrimental, the worst team you've
Yeah.
ever, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
how does Indiana fare in this world? Because it looks like Signetti, in my opinion, has this portal era, played the system, use your
Yeah.
resources. He has that thing figured out.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Dan, with Indiana, you have the advantage of keeping. I mean, and then if you're Indiana, keep your coach, however you got to do it,
Of course.
because you've got a man who I think is going to be that level of maybe. And people might say this is early to say this, but I think he's going to be that level of the Kirby Smart kind of. I mean, Nick
Yep.
Saban's a big reach to you have to do a lot before you can be considered there. But you know what I mean? I think he's going to be one of
Right.
those great coaches. Um, and so keeping him because I think he'll be able to bring in the talent. And then this winning this year, like Indiana did, that's going to be for recruits, for people that might want to transfer or in the transfer portal. This is going to kind of be attractive school to them. Now,
Yep.
I think it's you still got to get recruits and develop players. It's not. I know that it's a portal world we live in college football, but you still got to be able to do
Yep.
that. But it's a mix of things now because you know maybe you're bringing in that portal quarterback now to start next year who has experience even now that Mendoza is going to go to the NFL draft, right? So you replace him with a quarterback that's
Right.
got experience. Then you draft, or not draft. I'm talking like it's NFL draft, but it feels that way a lot now. Um,
Yeah, no
but
doubt, dude.
you bring in that recruit that's going to also play behind him next year. Then that's how you
Uh-huh.
have a recruit that's been there for a year. Does that make sense? I feel like if you don't have another
Yeah.
quarterback ready to go, then you got to get one from the portal, and then and then whoever you recruit in, that way they're not getting thrown to the fire their freshman year. I mean, it happens, but it's rare you're going to have someone ready to go like that. And I think you got to reload kind of like that. It's a mix of pulling in portal players for that have experience and preparing your recruits.
Yep.
So it's definitely different now than just trying to recruit a player because used to you had a player, you wanted to reload your recruits who were ready to step up and they've been there the whole time and they've been at
Right.
like say Alabama the whole time and then you reload with those recruits and you might have a freshman that happens to come in and be ready to play. That did happen
Right.
some, but it was more about reloading. Whereas now it's kind of like pulling them in, pulling the experience in where you need it, and then keeping your recruits behind them, if that makes sense. It's
Yep.
kind of what
Yeah.
I feel like it's the way it's kind of went in the
Yeah.
portal days.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. You're exactly right. I mean, wherever there's a void in your team, I feel like you got to use the portal as a crutch to fill that void quickly. And
Yeah,
then hopefully you've recruited well and you can backfill or whatever you need to do. But
yeah,
like you said, to start this whole thing out with, any time you have a season like Indiana just had, you don't.
yeah,
I feel like the talent's going to come to you now. I mean, you
yeah,
start building this image and this brand and this tradition. I mean,
yeah,
Signetti's been there 2 years and he's lost 3 games, 2 games, four, something like that. 4 games, maybe, I don't know, 2 games.
yeah.
I mean, my gosh, man, in 2 seasons, look at the turnaround. It's the most
It's crazy.
unprecedented turnaround that I've ever seen in any sport.
Yeah,
It's insane. So that alone will bring in talent, and he just has to manage it pretty much.
yeah,
Um, I just thought that was kind of cool to bring up, man. One thing that I've pondered on is if Indy, and it's going to be such a slap in the face to what they've accomplished and what Signetti's built in just 2 years and what he's already accomplished there. If Indiana just so happens to drop a game early in the season next year, or they come out the gate and lose their first two games or lose their first game, the media is going to try to spin it as,
Yeah.
yeah, last season was just a fluke. He's
Oh yeah.
whatever, this or that, and that's not going to be right, and that's not going to be fair, and
No.
that's something that I've thought about a lot. Just
Yeah.
hoping that we don't lose sight of what has been accomplished already. You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
As fans,
Yeah.
I'm not an Indiana
Yeah.
fan, but just as college football fans, we can't
Yeah.
diminish what's happened right before our eyes in 2 years just because they
Yeah.
might slip up a couple times next season.
Yeah. Oh no,
Oh,
absolutely, man. And I think time will tell with them anyways. I
yeah,
think if
yep,
even if that does happen at first, you'll see it bounce back and
yep.
and time's just gonna tell with him on how great of a coach he's gonna be. Um but yeah, man, it's an interesting world we live in, the transfer portal type world and
So
all the stuff
crazy.
going on. It's wild. Um and now we got the 12 team playoff and man, something that I want to say before we do end it, and I just think, man, these playoffs. I know the first round had a couple games, and there were some blowouts in it. I mean, even in the Alabama got blown up by Indiana, Oregon did, so it had blowouts in this game for sure, and that's gonna always happen.
Yep.
But overall, man, I just thought it was a great playoffs, man. I mean,
Yeah.
also on a personal level for me, I mean, you had Ohio State getting beaten their and their first playoff game. That was amazing, ending their season with two losses like they did.
Yep.
But
Yep.
and you had Alabama getting absolutely rocked by Indiana, and I know you loved that one too. And I mean, I
Oh
did too,
yeah.
but I know you really loved that game.
Yep.
I mean, and you had some instant classics, man. I mean, Georgia and Ole Miss game, crazy, dude.
Yep.
um, Became a classic. I mean, clutch moments. I mean, Ole Miss had like just willpower moments of just winning games,
Yep.
and you had that. You had Miami Ole Miss was such a classic there at that point.
Yep.
And the championship game, man. I mean, there's just been some great games that those ESPN instant classics that you would have had on a college football game, man.
Yeah.
That that was something that we did experience in these playoffs. So, and that's what you want, man. Not every single game is going to end up being like that. But if you get several, in my opinion, if you get 3 to 4 just awesome games like that, and it comes down to the wire, I
Mhm.
think at that point you've got to appreciate how the playoffs went overall. And
Yep.
man, I mean, just can't believe the season's over, but um, what a great ending, man. I mean, I couldn't be happier at this point with how the playoffs went and how it ended.
Yep.
Especially with the season, I think we had to endure as Tennessee fans. It was just nice to
Yep.
have something kind of go my way in the playoffs in that aspect, man. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, and and it really did. And the Final Four was so cool with the teams that had not. Three of them had never won a championship. Miami hadn't won
Yep.
since 2001, and I mean that's what I feel like was a breath of fresh air and some refreshing to see some
It
different
was.
teams instead of your Ohio State or your Bama or your Georgia. You had something different going on, man,
Yep.
and I really enjoyed it overall. And, um,
Yep.
we got some stuff coming up. I know in the off season that we'll be switching gears a little bit more towards that whatever part of our podcast. Y'all we'll be talking about some random things. Obviously
Yeah.
big moments. If something huge happens that's going to affect college football season,
Yep.
and then I'm sure we'll I always mention the Super Bowl when it gets that time. Everybody watches that, so we'll
Yep.
have some things. We still got to talk about Tennessee football and their season. We got a big episode that's going to come out just breaking down Tennessee football and how we felt the season went and everything. So yeah, if you're watching, make sure to like and subscribe.
Yep.
Let us know what you think, and I don't know, maybe give us some comments on some topics. You guys got something you'd like to hear us talk about throughout this off
Yeah.
season? We got, like I said, we're not going to be one of those that dig. We're not professionals, so we're not digging into that. Every little recruiting detail and all that. It'll be
Right.
a lot of cool stuff. I think we'll come up with a lot of cool things to talk about. Just
Oh yeah.
get into that whatever part of this podcast and get into more some talking and everything. But Adam, man, do you got anything else you want to conclude on this episode in the championship, man?
No, I agree with what you said, man. What a cool season. What a really cool
Yeah,
playoff. It'll be interesting to see how they twist and turn and alter the playoff. You know, they've talked about expanding it even more to maybe a
yeah,
16 team field next season. So we'll see how all that plays out. And as we get that information, obviously we'll get on
oh
here
yeah,
and express our thoughts on it and
yeah,
talk about that. The only other thing I wanted to bring up is we will be taking the podcast to audio as well in
yes,
the very near future, maybe even as near as this episode. You'll
yeah,
be able to not only find us here on the channel on YouTube, but we plan on taking audio to Spotify podcast, Apple podcast,
yes,
for that audio version. Um, I just got to do a little research and figure out how to do that.
yeah,
So if anyone knows how to do that or the best way to approach that, drop a comment, tell us what you think, tell us what we should do.
yeah,
But that's been one of our big goals, and we never really got around to it this season. But I think it would be a really cool goal to achieve if we were able to start now, all throughout the off season and the entire
yeah,
next season. You know, well, pretty much from this point on, have
yeah,
video and audio available to everyone out there, just to widen our reach, like you and I've talked about.
yeah.
That's all I've got. Thank you all for such an incredible season. Thanks for following us, checking us out, giving us views, showing love. And we're just looking to grow this thing in 2026, man. I look forward to it.
Absolutely, man. Adam, as always, man, it's been fun, and see what we got coming next here soon. So, see you,
That's
man.
right, brother. All right, take care, man.